Hello, welcome to Speech Talk Live, episode number 19. My name is Jay Oza. I'm the host of this show. And today we have Julie Finkelstein and Sajid Zachariah. And today's show is we're going to focus on three segments. The first segment is going to be a topic that we're going to discuss. This is something where we're going to look at it from when you're working on a speech, what do you want your audience to say? It's sort of like a pre-mortem, and I'll discuss that more when I introduce the segment. I'm really looking forward to our second segment, and we're really fortunate to have Sajid Zachariah, who is currently taking the Coursera's online course called Introduction to Public Speaking, and we're loosely affiliated with that course. And we're going to review his speech that he has recorded. It's a very good speech he has done called the Framing Effect, and we'll have him talk about it. We're not going to have him give a speech. We're going to have him talk about the speech, so that way he can tell us why he picked that speech and what was his experience like. Then the third one, since this is an idea that I got from Sajid, since he's giving a speech on the framing effect, I thought we might as well look at somebody who has given a talk on behavioral economics. And I selected the speech. I could have selected quite a few. The one that I selected is Dan Arielly. He's an excellent speaker. So we will review the content and the way he gives the speech and see what we can learn from it by somebody who's a professional in doing it at a TED event. So that's about the show, and now we'll just do a quick intro from Julie and let them do a quick intro, and then we'll move into our 3-minute segment that we normally do. Go ahead, Julie.
Hi, Jay. Hi, Sajid. Welcome, Sajid. And hello, everybody out there. My name is Julie. I'm currently in Stanford. I've been with this class since January. Actually, since last October, and I'm a fellow mentor and an active participant in Jay's Speech Talk Live program. Thank you.
Sajid, quick intro.
Hi everyone, this is Sajid Zachariah, basically from Bangalore, India. And I had joined this course, Introduction to Public Speaking, to improve my public speaking capabilities. I would think with the help of these able mentors and the course content, I would be able to improve my public speaking capabilities. So that's the main thought behind joining this course. Basically, I'm a software engineer. I've been working in Bangalore for the last nearly 20 years. I've been to different parts of the world, including US. I'm very happy to be in this hangout today and learn from you both today.
Thanks a lot. Where in US did you work?
I've been to Portland mainly
okay.
To Portland. Yeah, New York. Yeah.
Right, in New York. Okay, good. Okay. All right, great. Thanks a lot. So, again, thank you, Julie and Sajid, for joining the show. Just something that I forgot to mention in the beginning. Yes, I'm also a mentor, just like Julie, and we've been, as you can see, this is now the 19th show that we're doing. And the purpose of this is we have a community called the Learning Cohort that's been set up. We have close to 400 members. And the purpose of this is, fourfold. One is to learn. I think public speaking is a work in progress. We are constantly learning. The second is to teach. Now that Sajid is on, obviously once he has gone through a few speeches, you're also not learning, but you're also teaching others who want to improve their public speaking skills. The third thing is what Sajid is doing, sharing his speech, so that way he can get feedback from people like myself, even himself too, and see what he did well and where he can potentially improve, just so that he's constantly getting better. We all want to get better. And the fourth one, I think, is the most important. This is a support group. So this is like nobody here gets rejected or ridiculed. This is a place where we're all there to cheer you, to make sure that you develop the confidence that you need to become the speaker that you want to become. So that's basically what this is all about, Speech Talk Live and the community, the learning cohort. So the next segment is what I call, for no better name, a 3-minute segment. And the purpose here is that I feel that the most people only have 3 minutes. You only get 3 minutes to give a speech on any particular topic. The rest of it is depending on how attentive they are. If you cannot give a good speech in 3 minutes, you probably are not going to do that much better if you have more time than that. So I've started this a few episodes ago where we all get 3 minutes to talk about some topic, and it could be anything. In Sajid's case, you can pick any topic you want, or you can even introduce yourself in more detail, tell us something interesting about you, where you live, and what are some of your experiences like. So not to put you on a spot, you could talk about that so we know you better. And you can tell a story about something that has happened to you, or you can even pick some real insight on something that you're reading or something that you're working on. So, okay, I'll go first. So I'm going to talk about something that happened recently, and it's somewhat related to the theme of this show today. And it has to do with, the example is kind of trivial, but it kind of shows that it's something that I wish I could do that more often, because this time it worked, and I'll just give you an example of what it was. So around spring, mid to late spring, I get my air condition maintained, just to make sure that it's got the Freon and everything is all ready for the summer. So I had a technician come to my house, and he pointed out to me that I needed to add more Freon. It's supposed to be 6 pounds. He said it's only 4 pounds. So I need to add two more pounds. I said, listen, you guys have been coming for close to more than 10 years. I've never had any problem. What happened? He said, evidently there's a leak somewhere, but I can't find the leak. All I can do right now is to add 2 pounds of Freon. So I said, okay, if that's what I need, I'll add 2 pounds. And Freon is quite expensive, by the way. It's like $60 per pound. So I had to pay $120 plus his visit fee. So that was another $70, $80 like that. Okay. So then the second time another technician came, and it took him a while, but he finally found a leak in the coil in my utility room. So at that point, I asked him. I said, "How bad is the leak?" He said, "It's not that bad. It took him a long time to find the leak, but he finally found it." And then he said, "I'll have somebody's going to call you to tell you what your options are." Okay, that's fine. And of course, the second technician charged even more, because they're charging now per half hour. So air conditioning repairman is a very good business in America if you can get that job. So then this guy calls me, and he gives me 2 options. He said, "Jay, you have 2 options. One is you can replace the coil. That's going to cost close to $2,000, or you can get a new unit that'll cost you between $4,000 to $5,000, depending on what you select." And at that point, I just said, "Wait a second. There's got to be a third option here." I said, "Well, what if I do nothing?" And I had already talked to the other technician, and he said that if you don't do anything, then at some point you'll run out of Freon, and at that point you're going to have to either replace the unit. So I said, but there's not that much of a leak, so I can take that chance, and I did. And the end story is that now we're in fall, and I didn't have to replace the coil or replace the unit. So next year I'm going to get more Freon filled up to last another year, and eventually I'll change it maybe after 1 year. So the point of this is that a lot of times when you deal with experts, they will give you the options that they know only. They will never give you the option that you need to come up with. So always remember, there is always a do-nothing option that you need to consider. But when you do select the do-nothing option, look at it and understand what would happen at different points in time if things broke down, etc., etc. So this is my little quick talk. At some point, I may expand this and turn it into a real formal, informative talk. Julie, do you want to go next?
Thanks, Jay. So I suggest, I don't know if you know or not, but I've been working on my persuasive speech, and I got some very deep feedback. incisive and challenging feedback. And the one I'm going to work on today is how to increase more passion. I'm just going to try this introduction, and hopefully sometime you guys can email me feedback if there's time. So my topic is that actively engaging in this class, actually working at it, practicing it, working with other students, helps you to succeed in this class. And then also those skills transferable to other parts in your life. And so what got me started in this course, when I first started in this course, I created a Google community introduction to public speakings, and I was very active in the discussion forum as a mentor. And quite a few students actually contacted me. Two young men really stood out because I thought their problems were so immense and practical. They shared with me that their work was impacted, their livelihood was impacted by their inability to speak. And they couldn't even think of words or sentences when they have to speak at a job interview or at a staff meeting. And then when they finally overcome that difficulty, they would stutter, and that made them feel ashamed of how they spoke. So this inability to speak was affecting the survival and their relationships with other people, because this can also happen in new situations at home, and in fact their relationships with their family, because they needed to provide for their family. I never realized it before, but at that moment I realized how important speaking in the public arena is. And Jay always says that there is no public speaking, there is just speaking. Because when we speak, we are showing ourselves. Personally, I had a very successful career in information technology. I ended up with my own company. And throughout that, I had job interviews, hire people for my own job, hire other people. I created many user groups where we share technical topics. And the largest group I speak of was at a user group where I presented a project with about 600 users. But taking this class and practicing with Jay, I really, really wish that I had those skills when I was actively working. And the other topic that's so important is that the skills we learn in here include skills of analysis, because you have to be able to construct a speech that's coherent. Leadership, because that's what active engagement does. You learn to be in a group and you share your vision. Resilience, and the whole idea of learning not to give up, and many other attributes. But at this point, what I'm trying to get feedback on is the way I'm talking now and the examples I give engender a sense to you that I'm passionate about this topic and it's relevant to you in your lives. And with that, I will stop. Thank you.
Julie, that was excellent. Yeah, there's one thing before I turn it over to Sajid. I just came up with something. Something based on what you just said. I said, we all breathe to live, right? We all need to speak to survive, but we need to speak well to thrive. Anyway.
That's great.
Sajid, you got 2 to 3 minutes. You can talk about any topic you want, or just give us a brief little intro about yourself, some of the experiences you've had. So I'll turn it over to you now.
Thanks, Jay. Actually, I wasn't really prepared for it, in the sense, like, I was just thinking when you both were talking, how important it is to practice, even for a small introduction. I have read somewhere that basically it's not a talent. You create a talent by continuously practicing it. There is a rule called 10,000 hours doing anything. You keep practicing it for 10,000 hours, you mostly will become a genius in that particular area. So the practicing something is really important. And even when I was actually trying to do that speech, the informative speech that I have shared with you all, one the practice session that I took before recording my speech has really helped. So I think it's really the practice, and again in the public speaking, uh, I think even just before starting this particular speech, that anxiety or I'm not sure if the anxiety or the excitement or the emotion that you feel before you start speaking, uh, to come over that inertia, you need to practice. You need to meet a lot of people, and you need to talk to different phases of the gatherings, and that's when you are going to improve. Is what I feel. Uh, Now, I have I've been thinking about joining a public speaking course where I can speak live in the sense like a Toastmasters international or something. But now I think that this particular platform that you create, Jay, is very good because you don't need to travel from the comfort of your home. Actually, you can meet people. You can actually use this platform to talk and improve your skills, and this would help a lot of people like me. Uh, so that's uh, that's what I had. Thank you.
Okay, Sajid, thanks a lot. That was excellent. Yeah, so I kind of put you on the spot there, but you did it well. See, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we've been doing this for a while, but for somebody who just hasn't really been prepared, and you did excellent. So, congratulations. And like I said, the reason we do this show is that uh, I actually like because today video is now become so common that this is one talent we all need to have. The idea of, I mean, you're in India. I can get on a plane and come to India. I'm sure you guys can come here. It seems like that seems to be happening a lot. You always have projects here in the U.S. Unfortunately, I'm trying to get a project, and maybe I'll come and do a speaking project in India if somebody's interested. But until that happens, I'm stuck here in Hazlitt. So this is something that we all need to become good at. And I think that we've been doing this now for 18, and I could say I'm comfortable now doing this. In the beginning, I didn't know what to expect, and I think Julie, you just addressed it. You're much more comfortable now than when you first started. I mean, just now that 3-minute speech you gave was excellent. So I think little by little we're developing. I think what's happening when you participate in the show is, and again, what Julie said is right. I was saying, I said, there is no such thing as public speaking. There's only good speaking, no speaking, and bad speaking. And what this show allows me to do is it gives me to focus on how do I do good speaking. And that should apply no matter whether you're speaking on this Speech Talk Live. It applies when you're speaking at home and you talk about some nice personal stories in your speech with your wife, your children, and you have to also reinforce that with them too, that they have to speak good in all occasions. Even though they're talking to their friends, and that because if you do that, then you don't have to think, oh, I'm now speaking at work. I better speak good here. If you're speaking good all the time, then you wouldn't have to worry. You suddenly don't have to do any kind of switching. So that's so I'm glad that you talked about the importance of practice. I agree with you. You got to practice all the time. And as I was showing to Julie, I carry this with me. This is on my audio recorder. So every time I get a chance, if I'm in a car, I'll just turn it on and talk about some topic, and then I'll listen to it and see how I sounded. All right. At this point, I'm going to take a brief pause so we can transition to the next segment. Okay. Welcome to Speech Talk Live, episode number 19. And this is segment number 1. And the segment number 1, we're going to have a discussion on a speech topic. And the topic that I have selected is that many of us work on our speeches, And one of the first thing that is important, and sometimes we all know it, but we don't focus on it because we're so focused on working on our speeches that we forget this, the audience. And when you look at the audience, you want to look at it like at the end of your speech, right? This is commonly known as pre-mortem. I don't know if that word is something you're familiar with. We're all familiar with post-mortem. Post-mortem is something we do after the fact, right? Pre-mortem is we pretend like it's already happened so that you can correct it. So if you're giving a speech, what you want to do is, and I have to admit, I have not done this, that's why I picked this topic, and it's something I should be doing, is what 3 words do you want your audience to say after you've completed the speech? So this way, you can now use those words when you're working on your speech. Hey, these are the words I want them to use. Does my speech actually address those things? Will they say these things based on, now that I hear that these are the 3 things that they're going to say about my speech? Now, if they say that it's going to be terrible, then don't take that and start working on developing a terrible speech, okay? So I came up with 3 words that I gave some thought to this, and these are the 3 words I came up with. Let's say I'm going to give a speech in the future, and these are the 3 words that I think that I would want to see when they do their survey. First one is understandable. If I'm giving a speech, I don't care what topic it is. If my speech is not understandable, then I think I wasted their time. Okay? And I kind of look at these 3 in like this, 60, 30, 10. The first word is the most important. If the speech is understandable, they don't have to do anything. If I have a call to action, that's fine if they're not going to do it. But if it's not understandable, then I have completely wasted my time and their time. So that's the first word. So I would put like 60% of the weight on that first word. The second one I would say is speaking is a performance. So I would want them to say it was an interesting speech. And I would give that weight like 30%. So the second word I would say is like, yeah, you know, that was a speech that was understandable, but it was pretty interesting the way he gave that speech. And then the third one could either be educational or informative, that I made them smarter in some sense. And that's always my objective, that when you're speaking, you want to make your audience smarter. And one thing I'll point out here is that a lot of times you'll hear people say, oh, you got to really entertain them. My belief on that is if you're giving a speech, unless you are a paid comedian, then yes, you better entertain them. That's what people are expecting. But otherwise, if you're giving a speech like on framing effect or on any other topic, something like that, your number one objective is that you want to make your audience smarter than before. You want to make them think. Now, if you inject some humor or stories, then that will actually help you with your speech. It's actually enhancing your speech. But that shouldn't be how you should lead with, by telling a joke or being funny or telling a story. It could end up dominating the speech. So these are the 3 words I came up with. And Julie, do you want to go next? And when you're currently working on your persuasive speech, what 3 words do you want your audience to say after you give your speech?
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, I'll go next. I'm not sure these are the words I want them to think. I just actually want them to be in that state. So I want the message to be clear so they get the message, but I want them to be inspired, and I want them to be moved to act. So in terms of clarity, yes, I agree that I want the message to be clear and understandable. The basic idea what I'm talking about, from the public speaking class, the evidence, relevant evidence, and then the coherence, being able to link the evidence to the idea. To be inspired, I am working on this idea of success and happiness. So I want the idea to bring success and happiness in a relevant way to their lives. By way of example, I do believe that if someone becomes actively engaged in anything, it helps them to be happier and more engaged in their lives and more successful. And so the relevance of my ideas to them is very, very, very important, and in the sense that it can also bring to some kind of evolutionary outcome, not necessarily always painless, but more evolutionary, whatever that means. And finally, because I'm working on the persuasive speech, I want them to be so moved that they'll act on it, you know. And those are the states of being that's implicit in them. So I don't really want them to feel like, oh, she gave a really clear speech, or oh, I'm so inspired by that. Well, I really want them to say, yeah, that fits into my life. I'm going to do something about it. So with that, I will turn that back over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good, Julie. Yeah, I'll come back to you with a follow-up later. Sajid, Julie, can you mute your line? Okay, good. Sajid, what 3 words, since you just recorded a speech, I don't know whether you looked at from what you wanted your audience to say. You must have already gotten some feedback, but what are 3 words, let's say, if you're working on a speech, what 3 words would you want them to say after you've given a speech so that you can make sure you hit those marks?
Yeah. So Jay, I found this is a very, very interesting thing. So after the speech, what do you expect your audience to tell or feel? The first thing that I think is the speech that I have given is clear to the audience, and the audience is able to understand what I said. It's pretty much the same as what you both were saying. Whatever we communicate should be clear to the audience. And the second point I have is actually we should be able to connect well. The audience should feel connected with the speaker. So if the speaker is able to connect well with the audience, I feel half the work is done, and they would understand what we were saying. And the third one is, if through my speech, if I can move somebody, that would be great. So that would be my third, the particular word, the word that I think.
Yeah, no, those are excellent. I think we pretty much said the same thing. So if there's just one word now, we're going from 3 to 1 word. I would say the one word that I would pick if I had to use. I think the main thing is that I want my speech to be understood, because you spend a lot of time on it. If it's not understood, then all bets are off, right? As far as the inspiration and all that, I can't guarantee that my speech will inspire people, because I can't control that. I can inspire myself, but I'm not sure my speech is going to inspire others. The only thing I can control is to make the speech so clear that they say, you know, I don't agree with him. I don't, like, if I give a speech, I don't expect people to agree with me. But even if they disagree with me, the one thing I definitely want them to say is that, you know, I don't agree with what Jay said, but I definitely understood what he said. Julie, would you use the same word, or you'd use something else?
Yeah, I actually would use the word connected, which Sajid used. And the reason is, in my practice, in my Zen practice, there are many times that I will read a piece of work that I do not understand, but somehow I felt it and I connected with it. And those are the kind of work that I will really spend a lifetime to work that through. So I want to feel connected. That's just I want the person to feel connected to me and to what I'm saying, even if they don't understand. That's just what's important to me. Thank you.
Yeah, Sajid, what one word would you use?
I think that understanding part, right? That the speaker should be clear, and the audience should understand what they're saying. So that's one word I think, which would be the most important thing, because if you're not clear, with what we are saying, and the audience is unable to understand what we are saying, the speech is lost. So I think the understand is the word for me. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's like I said at the end. You can only do what you can control, right? So when you're working on your speech, and of course in the next segment we'll go into that in more detail, and that's the kind of question that I'm going to ask. Like, okay, is my speech understandable? And like I said, I carry this with me, and you can record it on your audio, or you can just get on Google and record your Hangout, and it'll record it onto your YouTube channel, and you can see exactly not only how you sound, but how you look. So today we got all kinds of tools. There is no reason why you cannot become a good speaker. The only reason people don't become a good speaker is because they just don't do it. So there are no secrets here, folks. All right, so at this point, we're going to take a break and move to our second segment. So I'll take a brief couple of second pause here. Okay, welcome to Speech Talk Live, episode number 19, segment number 2. In this segment, today we are lucky to have Sajid Zakaria from India, Bangalore, India, and he has recorded an excellent speech called The Framing Effect on the Coursera's on-demand platform, and he wanted to come on the show and discuss it and perhaps get some of our feedback to see what we thought of it and if there's anything we can suggest to him that he can do to make it even better. So at this point, what I'm going to do is have Sajid briefly talk about, because he's the one who recorded the speech, to kind of talk about the speech, how he came up with this topic, why this topic. Then he can talk about, he can do a self-evaluation. I'd like to find out what he thinks of his speech. So Sajid, you can talk about what you thought of your speech and what are some of the things you think you could have done better now that you have recorded it. And like I said, this is all part of what you have to go through, right, as you want to become a better speaker. So at this point, Sujit, I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell us, like, how did you come up with this speech and what you think of your speech now that you've seen it?
Yeah. So the basic reason is after I joined the course, there was this segment to do this informative speech, and I had been reading quite a bit on the cognitive biases and behavioral economics. I thought this would be a topic which I can use and which I would be able to connect with most of the audiences who are going to see and hear my speech. So that's the main reason for me to pick up that particular topic. And yeah, that's the reason. So the second thing was, why did you choose the topic? I thought as I had been reading about cognitive biases, it would be easier for me to talk on the biases, and I would be able to provide some everyday examples. So basically, I took an easy approach, probably I can say, to take this topic. So I wanted to complete the assignment that was there as part of the topic, and with least effort. What's the best that I can give at the point of time? That's the reason. That's basically the reason. Okay. The next question was like, are you going to use this in the real life? Probably not in the short term, but maybe in the long term, if I get a chance and if I can actually inspire people by giving a talk and give more information, maybe my colleagues or outside in my community, I would probably use this as a topic. At least some of the anecdotes I would use in some of the speeches I probably would be giving in future. So for the short moment, I'm not going to use it. Okay. What did I do well in the speech? I think probably I started with an anecdote and a small example that probably got me connected with my audience. That's probably the only thing. The usage of anecdotes throughout the speech probably got me connected with the people, and the rest of the things. When I hear my speech again, I really don't like the speech. I see a lot of issues in the speech. Majorly, I think that everything could have been improved. Uh, Namely, I see there's a lot of unrequired pauses in the speech, which probably make some people disconnected from the speech. Actually, these kind of like probably stresses the people out because of this unrequired pauses in between, which is not really required, and some of the sentences I probably did not complete well. That happens generally when I speak to a new audience on a new topic on which I am not very comfortable with. But in the speech also, I've noticed that there are some examples in which, like, the what's there in my mind did not really come out well in the speech. Okay, and again on what I did not like about the speech, I think the arrangement I think could have been better. No, I have started with an anecdote. I've probably given two or three different anecdotes or examples actually during the speech. Probably I could have reduced that and provided more information during my speech. That probably would have been more informative as such, because the topic of the name of the speech itself is informative speech. I could have actually given more information to the user, to the audience. Yeah. So, so these are the things that I thought about my speech. So I'm very eager to hear you all on where I can improve and what I did well and what I did not do well. That's going to take me a long way. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. That was excellent. That was excellent. I don't know whether we watched the same speech or not. Let me tell you what I thought of this speech. Remember when I said that the speech that I would like as an audience, what I want to say, and I said the three words: understandable, interesting, and informative. And that was your speech. It was understandable, it was uh, interesting, and it was informative. So let me go through each of them. I think that's good. It's good to be hard on yourself because that's how you improve. But I think you're too hard on this speech. I thought it was a very good speech. And the reason, some of the things you pointed out, I think are the reasons why I thought it was good. When you said that the way you started out the speech by just getting us to think, you kind of framed the speech, if I may use that pun, framed, about 1 pound of stone, 1 pound of feather, right? That you brought your uncle into that. That's very effective because that gets audience to think about, like, where is this guy going with this? Where is that going? And then it's when you immediately defined framing effect, which was excellent because you got to get that out quickly. You didn't like wait till the end. You did it in the first minute, which I thought was very effective. And then you took an example that we could all relate to with your story about your child not done with my homework. Like, are you going to punish me for not doing something? That I thought was good. I think those type of things makes it personal. So anytime you bring a personal story, I think it's effective. And then you talked about your particular challenge with weight. That, again, personalizes it. It makes people relate to you. So I think that I wish I could do that more too. That was very effective. So I don't think that those were things that I would say is that you said at just the beginning. I think that everything in the speech was excellent. And then you go into the science behind all of this, and you give the Nobel laureate Kahneman and Tversky with this loss aversion. It's a kind of a framing effect, and you give the examples about some disease. Depending on how you frame it, makes the decision is made essentially based on how you frame a particular question. And I thought that was very effective on how we are biased towards winning. Then I think then again you came back and gave an example about purchasing two shirts, where the deal was two for the price of one, and you explained it that you kind of got taken in by that you thought it was free, but then your wife kind of made you see that maybe it wasn't that great a deal as you thought it was. You thought it was like a 50% off, and then she pointed out that really you only got a 30% discount, which is not bad, but again, that free part is what got you to buy that. And she was saying that that you need to watch it sometimes. It's not as free as you think it is. Then at the end, I liked it because what you did was you talked about your personal story. You talked about the science behind it that that gives you the credibility of the story. Because sometimes what happens is people talk about the story and they don't really emphasize the science too much. But the thing that you did at the end after that was how to prevent that from happening. And there again, you could have spent more time on that. But again, I understand that this is a between 12 minutes, 10 minutes, 11-minute speech. So here's my overall takeaway on this. You can never make a speech perfect. No speeches are ever perfect, okay? You can only do what you can do, and you did everything that was at your disposal, which is you personalized it, you gave the science, and you gave ways to avoid that. There isn't much more you can do. The other things you're pointing it out, like, well, pauses. You do need to pause in this type of speech. I think pauses are important because it gives your audience a chance to reflect. When you don't pause, and I don't know some people always tend to comment like, oh, he paused too much. That's a good thing because, again, you want to be understandable. So I'm not sure who's commenting like, oh, you had too many pauses. I would ignore that comment. I get that too, and I don't pay attention to that because I need pauses. I pause and I want to see people pause. That even that instant second said, hey, you said something and now you're pausing. Creates a little suspense there. As far as the sentences did not complete well, you can never worry about that because in every speech you give, there are mistakes. So when you're not using notes, there are going to be mistakes. But the main idea was that you wanted to explain the framing effect in a way that made sense to people, where you talked about your own personal example, you brought in science, and you gave them some tips to avoid that. That is the main idea of this speech. As far as like, oh, I could have said this better, I could have said that better, that'll happen in any speech you give at any time, anywhere. It is not, no speeches are ever perfect. Unless you're reading a speech, then it can be perfect. But then that's not really a speech. That's something that's written. Arrangement, again, it's a choice. You made a choice the way you did it. There's no thing as like which arrangement is better or not. And if anybody comments on, oh, this could have been put here, could have been put there, that's their opinion. At the end, the main part of it is, like I said, the speech was understandable, it was interesting, and it was informative. Julie, do you have any comments?
Yes, thanks. I agree with Jay. I felt connected to you, and I felt I understood the speech, and I appreciated the conclusion with some suggestion. So I took a little bit of a different tack in giving you feedback. We are always so negative. Sometimes we lose the baby in the bath water, so we want to keep the baby. I thought that your arrangement was good because you packed so much information into the time, and yet you were not rushed. I felt that you were warm and comfortable because speakers who have anxiety makes me nervous. So I felt very connected because you were warm and comfortable. And I really like the repetition in the beginning because, and I need to do it too, because now we are speaking to an international audience, and we all have our own little accents, no matter where you are in the world, right? I have a lot of trouble understanding Londoners, and I have a friend who's a Londoner. So I like that you pose a question in the beginning because that opens me up. I like your tonal shift. You didn't mention that, but you have very effective tonal shift. I like your combination of expert examples with personal examples because that creates validity and connectivity. And you have a very nice smile. And I like your gentle humor because, again, it creates a sense of you're not perfect, you're not just a techie geek, you're a human being. Your eye contact was excellent. Um, I would recommend, so here's the constructive criticisms, and I have three. One of them is that you move your smile up earlier and deliberately. So maybe after the first repetition, you smile, and then you do the repetition again. And that connects to the second suggestion, which I firmly agree with Jay. From the listener point of view, I thought the pauses were fine and they were very smooth. In fact, my suggestion is that you take deliberate pauses for dramatic effect. The brain processes information at 50 milliseconds. So we can only receive information in 50 milliseconds. And so when you pause, Jay is absolutely right. It gives the audience a chance to receive the information and organize the information. And finally, you were swaying quite a bit, and that was distracting. So I will ask you to perhaps consciously not sway. And again, you sway for dramatic effect. So when you're making one point, you're here, and then stay there. And when you want to make another point, and I have to do the same thing, right? Shift there, so your audience get the message that you're moving to a different point. So those are my suggestions. And one final thing is I really like your inverse. When I was doing my own deals in business, I always inverse my deals. You know, if someone proposed a deal for me, I inverse it to say, is that still work? Because if the inverse doesn't work, there's a lack of parity somewhere, lack of balance. So I thought that was a excellent suggestion, but overall, very, I enjoyed the speech, I understood the speech, and I received useful information from the speech. And I will do action. I will adopt some of your suggestions. So they meet all my criteria too. Thank you.
Yeah, no, Julie, that was yeah. The one thing, those are excellent points, Julie.
Thank you.
The one thing I will point out, Sajid, is that you want to be yourself. I mean, that goes without saying. So if there are things that you do naturally, don't, unless it gets to the point where it gets distracting for your audience. So the way you're speaking on that speech, it seems like what I'm hearing is that's the way you speak, and that's good. So that when you are speaking in a stressed environment where the stakes are high, you're not trying to act now. That's the way you are. So that's a kind of an important point where a lot of people have fear of public speaking, is that they feel like for public speaking they have to be somehow different. And when they do that, it's very difficult because that's not who they are. Like the way I'm speaking here, the way Julie's speaking, that's the way we should be speaking if the stakes were high, like we're having a conversation. And when people don't do that and they suddenly are faced with, oh, I have to give a speech, they get scared because they're like, but that's not me. If I sound exactly the way I am, then that's not the way I want people to see you. That's not how they want to see me, and that's how fear sets in. So, as far as like the movement of swaying and stuff that Julie commented, remember this is a recording. If that's something you're in a better position to assess. That's her comment. If it was distracting, then you should take that comment, because at the end, no matter what we say, as whether it's good or what is constructive comment, the real feedback is when you do it in front of an audience. All we're saying here is these are the things that we noticed that you may want to watch out for, but the real the real proof is when the audience actually gives you the feedback. So do you have any comments, Sujit, on any things that we said so far, or any other kind of feedback you're looking for from us?
Um, Thanks a lot, Jay and Julie. It's been very, inspirational. I should say. I think this would inspire me to, do more speeches and probably go out and give speeches in my community and to my colleagues, etc. On the topics that I like and love. Uh, uh, these were definitely would help actually. See, on the pauses part. I was thinking that I kind of was pausing in between the sentence in some of at least in few of the cases, which probably the audience is actually waiting for me to complete the sentence, but whereas I give a pause in between and they're not able to take cognizance of the complete sentence that I am about to speak. There is a cut in between. So I'm cutting the sentence in between, and there is a pause, and then completing the sentence. That was the pause I was talking about. But it's very good to hear from you that that pause is very effective. I would like to introduce pauses in my speeches in future, and that was very good feedback. And I was thinking that that was negative, but no, it's good to hear that these introducing the pauses are quite good. I've heard this from the instructor also, but I was worried when these pauses were coming in between the sentence. So that was my worry. But overall, both of your feedbacks were positive. I'm happy about it, and thank you very much.
Yeah, so that's Julie. Yeah, just keep. All I would say is that my closing comments is that keep giving more speeches. And again, public speaking is not a one thing. Every speech is different, right? So the main thing is, like I said, the thing that I go with is it understandable? Are you making it interesting? And at the end, is it informative? And what is your overall objective in the speech? And I agree, this is a different kind of speech because you're doing it primarily to become a better speaker. There are no stakes here, but now you realize this is a way to practice, that if you ever have to give a speech in front of an audience, you now know how to do it. And that's the whole point, that you've done it here, and you can see it's not that difficult. Obviously, you spent quite a bit of time working on this speech. So you can see that all you have to do is record it onto YouTube. You can see yourself. And I think the thing I like about what you're doing is you're noticing things about your speech. And that's how you really become good at speaking. When you start saying, well, I paused in between sentences. See, I didn't notice it, but you're noticing it. And that's good. And the kind of feedback we're giving you is we're giving you feedback from somebody who saw your speech recorded. We didn't see you live, right? But these are things that you can now take away and saying, these are the feedback. And this is recorded, so you can go back and listen to it. Look at our feedback versus your feedback and see where is exactly the improvement you need to make. But again, all speeches are different. But at least now you have an idea on how to create a good speech like you did with this one. Julie, any closing comments before we move on to our next segment?
Yeah, I just want to encourage you to speak. You have a very understated and warm charisma, and whatever you want to share with the world, if public speaking is your modality, it comes off very well. So, and I don't say that always. So I just want you to know I really do feel that. Thank you.
Yeah, Julie, you haven't said that to me. Okay, I see.
I haven't said that to you, right?
You haven't said that to me. So Sajita,
well, you have charisma.
So Sajita suddenly made a big impression on you. Okay, any final words, Sajit, before we move? And any closing comments on it, Sajit? I think the main takeaway is that keep practicing. You're doing well, and like I said, don't let this be the last speech you ever record. Keep recording more and more, and keep looking at it and see what you need to do.
Definitely, Jay. I would like to give more speeches. I would be recording more speeches, and I would also like to be a part of this hangout, if possible, in the future segments. And is it possible to be part of the hangout in the future segments?
Yeah, sure, sure. That's what it's for. So yeah, I will if you want me to include you on the email. I sent you an invitation to join the community. You got that, right?
Yes, I got it. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So yeah, so I'll keep you. I'll put you down to, and it's up to you. If you can make it, you can make it. Actually, today we usually have Latesh and Soumyan and Aruna, but today, see, we picked Julie as one person who's non-Indian, so that's why we have Julie on. You know. We have to have one person, a token non-Indian on this show, otherwise it'll look like, where is this show coming from, India? So anyway.
I have a friend who's from Sweden, blonde, and she's going to be sending you a request for invitation. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we need somebody.
We need Kim Blondies.
This is going to turn into the Asian Speech Talk Live.
I'm good with that. You know,
all right,
the Asians work. They practice.
we need some white people and black people and Hispanic people on this show. And I'm going to take a quick break.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome to Speech Talk Live, episode number 19, segment number 3. And in this segment, we're going to look at a professional speech that was given by an excellent speaker, Dan Arielly. Dan is a professor at Duke now. I think in this speech he talks about MIT. And Dan is an excellent speaker. I've actually taken his course that was offered on Coursera. And I think he's one of the most dynamic speakers out there. And what I like about Dan is the way he explains these research that he does regarding behavioral economics in a way that is really understandable, entertaining also. He's a very entertaining speaker. And he uses, he's very effective in the way he tells stories and the way he uses humor. And there is a lot of interesting things that he talks about that makes you think. Like, and in this particular speech that he gave at TED, it's just interesting how the way he constructed the speech when he starts talking about visual illusion, and he shows these two tables. And how long they are, and it turned out from eyes we can't tell, and then he had one that had colors, and again we couldn't tell, but then he transitions over to something, and again vision is something that makes us special because machines cannot even do certain things that we do, right? Our eyes are amazing. Even machine perception is such a difficult thing, but they still are working hard to get the driverless cars to work. And we don't even know whether that's ever going to happen in all situations. So that remains to be seen. But it just goes to show how difficult that is, that we're so gifted with having this ability to see, that the computers, with all the computing power, it takes them so long to do that. But then he talks about, it transitions over to something that is not seen, it's inside our brain. It talks about cognitive illusion. And every time I watch this, I just get so much out of this speech, and I'm just kind of blown away. And here he talks about the organ donation, that, and you know, we all think we're pretty smart, and what he's making us think here is that maybe we are not that smart. Maybe we are smart in one sense, we think we're smart, but when it comes to decision making, a lot of these decisions are already made for us, and we're just kind of going along with it. And I included this this thing I sent you by email this morning about this guy who's homeless, and he's begging for money, and he had a sign. It's a famous this is a famous example, and he has a sign that says, "I'm blind, please help," and very few people were giving him money. Some woman stops by and changes the sign, and she writes down, you know, "It's a beautiful day and I can't see." Change the framing. And suddenly people started donating money, that, yeah, this guy, he wished he could see so he could enjoy the day. The framing changed. The one, he looked helpless. Here he looked like, hey, if he could see, his life would be so much better. And people kind of, that resonated. and they were willing to donate money. And it's kind of interesting that even when you think in terms of business, let's take a look at Starbucks. And I think, Julie, I talked about this a while back, that Starbucks, when they first started, they were not very successful. People think of Starbucks as like, oh, coffee. I personally don't go to Starbucks. I don't like their coffee, but they're successful, and you can't argue against success. What made Starbucks successful wasn't really their coffee. It was this whole concept of third place. You know, your first place is your home, your second place is your work, and the third place is where you go and socialize. So they created this whole idea of third place. And eventually, as you go to this third place, you want to enjoy their drinks, and people started drinking coffee, and after a while, you get addicted, and so on and so on, and now they're a multi-billion-dollar corporation. But the concept is still the third place. Now the question is, do you like their coffee because of their coffee, or is it because of something else? And I think that, and I don't think they even make a secret about this, that the reason why Starbucks is successful is because of the concept of third place. So even a business sometimes makes decision for you to buy something. And we think that we're making a decision based on our taste buds, like, oh, I like Starbucks coffee, I like this coffee. But maybe it's not even the coffee; it's something completely different. So what this Dan Ariely's speech made me realize is that there are so many decisions out there that are made that we're really not making, but yet we think that, oh, we're in complete control. Like even as simple as like when you go buy a car, once you enter a dealership, they have an advantage over you because you made the trip to go there. So right away, they have a complete advantage over you. Similarly, if you go to a store like Sajid did to buy shirts, once you enter the store, they have an advantage, right? And even on internet, I think I tend to buy more books now because of ebooks. It's much easier to buy ebooks than it is to go to a store and buy it. So is it that I'm reading more? I mean, yes, but also a lot of these decisions are not really, I think I'm making decisions, but perhaps I'm not. And that's what this speech made me realize, that a lot of these decisions are already made for us. So I thought it was a very good speech. And as I said, he's a professional speaker. He gives a lot of these type of speeches. And there's a lot we can learn as far as what he does in how he has organized his speech, how he uses stories, how he uses humor in his speech, and how he really connects with the audience. You could see that the audience were like really into what he was saying. And also how he uses a lot of the PowerPoint slides. I don't think he needed it, but it helped. Julie, any comment on this content and the speech and the style of delivery?
Yes, I want to talk about two things. One is his use of humor, and the second thing is just sharing what I took away with it. So I thought this was a very esoteric topic or abstract topic. It's not the idea of counter attractive, right? We don't like to think that we are not in control of ourselves, and so I think he used humor very effectively to break down that habitual barrier. All the examples he used. The weekend in Rome, you know, the car stolen, the idea of dating, that you want to bring an uglier girlfriend. And then he says, be careful when people invite you to go out to the bar. And I think, yeah, man, you know, I never even got invited out to the bar, so I didn't even fit into the almost as attractive, but not quite the thing. But I think he has a great point. And he was talking actually about very deep subjects, right? He's talking about neural patterns, and that when things get complicated and too challenging and we can't handle it, we drop into the default mode. And I call that my dumb down mode, right? So but his dating example was funny. His Paris and Rome examples were funny. Even his subscription to The Economist, and I think even though he doesn't joke, he has an innate sense of a little bit of a thought in his perceptions, probably because of who he is and what he's researching. So I want to applaud you said earlier that he, just be who you are. He was just being who he was, but it was just so funny. And in terms of takeaways, his idea is that we want to understand what that means so that we can design intelligent systems or human intelligent systems. We don't want to design systems where people can take advantage of this innate inability to respond to these situations, and they're deeply nested in our midbrain, in our amygdala, and our brainstem, right? On a personal level, things I can do right away is, I'll come back to this point you talked 2 weeks ago. It keeps on coming up, right? Have some doubt. Challenge yourself. Challenge your society. Challenge the decisions that's placed in front of you. And that is what good leaders do, right? Good leaders are able to stay in that ambiguous space and to let things clarify themselves. And that is what the storytelling guy talk about epistemological hovering is. Don't say right away, this is what I know. Challenge what you know. And this is my own personal takeaway, is before people can design systems, I can do my own thinking about outside of the box a little bit. So that's what I got. But I thought his use of humor was excellent because it wasn't jokes, but just being who he is and the way he presented it with timing, topic, and perspective, even though they were very serious ideas. He helped us to open up, laugh, and then be more able to receive those ideas. So I thought, again, like you said, excellent speech. Thank you.
Yeah, one thing before I go to Sajid. So one thing you noticed, he didn't go into it in the speech. I learned from watching him at that Coursera course that that's offered by Duke. That's where he's a professor right now. The reason he got into this field of behavioral economics was because he had a terrible accident when he was young. And I think you might have noticed it. He's a little bit disfigured. He had a burn. He burned like almost like 90% or something really high of his body. And it all started with like these nurses who were removing the bandages from him, because when you get burned, there are like all sorts of bandages that they have to put, and that the way they were taking out the bandages, he started thinking like, should they do it slowly or should they just pull it quickly? Like, which one do you do? And he was thinking about that, and that's when he got to him, why do people make decisions the way they are? Is somebody telling them what to do, or did they ever even think about how much pain that's going to cause? Like, are they looking at it from his perspective on how they even remove the bandages? And that's when he started asking these questions, and I think he eventually started corresponding with Daniel Kahneman. Dan Arielly is, as you can tell, he has an Jewish Israeli accent, so that's Daniel Kahneman is also an Israel citizen. So I think they at one point might have collaborated, and they developed that friendship, and he got more and more involved in this field, and then eventually he worked at MIT, and then he moved to Duke University. But just to give you a little bit background on his, if you noticed it in his speech, that's why he's so highly motivated by this particular field. Sajid, do you have any? What did you think of it, and what did you get out of the speech?
As soon as you had sent the link, I had seen it. I think I had seen it in the past also, but I'm sorry that I didn't take any notes. But Dan Ariely is someone who always inspires me. I admire him a lot, and one of the reasons for me to get interested in behavioral science is Dan Ariely, and I made to read his book called Predictably Irrational. but I keep watching him on YouTube, and he's always inspirational as a behavioral scientist as well as a speaker. All his examples are right on. You can actually connect with him very easily, and I have never seen a speech which was a bore no, from him. Actually, all the speeches are available on YouTube are always interesting. So you can learn a lot from Dan Ariely, and one of the reasons that I have included a lot of examples in my speech is because of the fact that he introduces a lot of speech, a lot of examples in his speeches. So that's the reason that I also try to include a lot of examples in my speech. So he definitely inspires me a lot. And Jay, on the other part, even I had joined the course which was available on Coursera, but no, I felt in between. Actually, I did not complete the course. Yeah. So thank you. That's it from my side. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually a good course. I got really introduced to it. I did finish the course, and the reason I liked it because I thought it was a tough course actually. I mean, in one sense, you could take the easy path or you could take the difficult path. There were two paths to that, and I took the difficult path. And what made it is that in the difficult path, he assigned, I think, for each week, you had to read like 4 papers. These were like research papers. So it gave me an opportunity to read research papers that I hadn't really done before. And if you're taking the easy path, then all you had to do was watch the lectures and take the quiz. But if you took the research, also the research path, you have to do both actually, right? The research path, you have to answer questions reading these papers. So I had to read like 4 papers, and it was interesting because like I said, a lot of times other courses I've taken where they didn't really go into reading research papers. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but it's a topic that after I took the course, I really started understanding more about the decision-making process. And one thing I should, it's something you covered, which I didn't get a chance to bring up, the loss aversion. Loss aversion is a very important topic, and one of the things, in your case, people always use a trivial example or not that critical example, but loss aversion essentially can create situations that people just never get out of because we all want to win. And one of the things that happened to America in Vietnam was a loss aversion because first the French got in, then the French left, and America then got involved. And then after a while, they really didn't know why they were even there in the first place. And then it was like, how do we get out of this situation looking like you're doubling down. You're thinking like at the end, there's going to be some win at the end. And at the end, the win that they were looking for was not to lose your face. I mean, it came down to something so trivial. And at the end of it, when you look at it, U.S. lost close to 55,000 soldiers, something like a certain number, 100,000 wounded. And the country still has never really kind of recovered from that. And there are so many examples of loss aversion at a level where lives are lost. And one of the big examples from World War II was the Battle of Stalingrad. And here's where Hitler really never really needed to attack Stalingrad. The only reason he wanted to go after Stalingrad was because it was named after Stalin. And then he got bogged down, and then he did not want to lose. And he just kept on doubling down, and it turned out to be that was the battle that decided his fate. And that took place quite early in World War II, but they lost close to more than 1 million soldiers in that war. That was one of the bloodiest battles ever fought in our human civilization. So the point is that these type of topics, you really start thinking about it, and you really understand that our brain, it's powerful, but it's also quite vulnerable to these type of deception. Julie, any closing comments? Julie, you have any closing thoughts? Your line is muted. Julie, do you have anything? You have any closing comments? She might not be able to hear us. Sajid, do you have any closing comments?
I really liked all three segments, and I think that the 3 minute speech that we're doing in the beginning that would really help. That kind of from the speech that we have, and if you can introduce the speech segment also in your the speech live the program, that would be really good. I think you probably have one already, uh, but the an example or a practicing that speech in this program, I think would give opportunity to everybody to give a speech and get the feedback or get the comments on online. I think that
Yeah,
would be.
let me comment on that. We did that in the beginning. The problem with that is that it's just the technology makes it difficult because some people don't have a broadband connection, and we could. That's something Soumyan keeps suggesting that we should actually do more of those type of. I think that 3 minute should be the one. If you, I think the next time if you want to do it standing up, prepare it and just do it standing up. The other speech, when you do it longer than that, it's better to have it recorded because otherwise it would just take too long to do it. Like if you have to give that speech live on the show, then what we'd do is that we would end up spending more time. It would take up too much time, and it wouldn't give you. So I think the 3 minute speech, I think, is a good way to practice that. And then at some point in time, we may do it, but we tried that in the beginning, and it just didn't work out well. So that's why we stopped doing it. Julie, do you have any closing comments?
No, today was a very interesting topic, and welcome, Sajid. And I do hope I will see you again soon. And
Yeah,
thank you,
Sajid.
Jay. And you
Yeah.
have charisma.
Yeah. Thanks. Working on it, and Sajid, thanks for joining. I know that this was your first time, but now you're a pro. So next time we're not going to be that easy on you. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Jay and Julie. It's been really helpful. Thanks for all the comments, all the good comments, I should say. You've been, both of you were quite a bit lenient on me, actually, I would say. But thanks a
Actually, no,
lot.
we're trying to be hard. I couldn't find anything. Sajid, do you, if I put this on Coursera, would you have any problem with that? Your particular, your speech and the review that we did?
Go ahead. I think it would be. I'm okay with that.
Okay, all right, good. Because I just want to make sure, because some people don't. Sometimes they're like, "Oh no, I don't want my." But I think part of this is that if you want to become a good speaker, then you can't have that fear, like people are going to see you. Otherwise, you'll never be able to give a speech. All right, great. All right, guys, thanks a lot, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Okay, bye. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.